Cece's through and he scores! Shooted from outside the box! And what a strike! Middle, still with it, the shot, and it's in!
What's going on, everybody, and welcome into episode number 1 of the Old Bay Breakdown. I'm your host, Adam Gotkin, very excited to be starting off this show, and I thought there'd be no way better to start off episode number 1 than to tell you what this show is going to be about. So, basically, the Old Bay Breakdown will be your weekly show for all things Maryland Bobcats. We'll have interviews, highlights, some commentary, analysis, anything that you want Maryland Bobcats related. Eventually, some guest questions, anything Maryland Bobcats related. We're excited to bring it to you. For this first episode, because the season of course has not started yet, it'll be a recap of the offseason. So that'll be what players are the Bobcats bringing back, who's been added, what's the league structure going to look like this year, what teams are gone, what teams are new, some of the new sponsors, and then the final thing will be the interview with the new manager, the new head coach, Sylvain. Rastello. That's going to be really good. I hope you all are going to enjoy that. That'll be from the media day that I did at the Soccerplex just a few weeks ago. Great interview, and I hope you all are going to enjoy that. But let's start things off with what the roster is going to look like this year for the Maryland Bobcats. I'll just go down the list of returners. That's how we'll start things off. Number 1, Alex Cow will be back for his second season with the Bobcats. The team's captain, their leader, a guy who was big last year in the midfield. He's also a youth coach with the teams. We also did an interview with him at that media day. That'll be shown sometime in the next few weeks. Really a big guy for the culture. Excited to have him back with the Bobcats. Next, Kay Banjo, the first signing ever for the Maryland Bobcats. He's been brought back for his second year professionally with the team, and he's a guy we can see how dangerous he is. A couple goals last season, a sharp shooter. He's going to make some insane plays. He's a guy to really look out for. Next, James Cece, a fan favorite, Pele, as many of you know him, is going to be back, and he is one of the most electric players that we saw in all of NISA last year, one of the better players in all of NISA. Put the ball at his feet, and he is going to do something special with it. After that, Richard Forca will be back with the team next year. Forca, a very talented defender, kind of came out of nowhere at one point, really started playing well in the middle of the summer-ish, got that starting job, and throughout the fall really was a dominant player at the right back position and was huge in the team's fall season campaign. After that, Jocelyn Poseidon, another midfielder, another guy that's going to be crucial for the upcoming year. Another veteran. He's been around for a long time, been all around the world. Excited to see what he can do this year. In net, coming back, the only returning goalkeeper, Christian Caulker. Caulker, as many of you know, the former national team player for Sierra Leone. Really good keeper, great shot stopper. One of the better keepers in the league last year when he was able to stay healthy and stick with it. Very excited to have him back this year. Davey Mason, also, the left back midfielder, can even go up top. Really battled through a lot of injuries last season, but he'll be back this year and going into his second year professionally. They're hoping that he can stay healthy and make a better impact long term. Yaya Fane next. Fane, one of the starting center backs all year long with Jake Dengler, can also move up into the midfield if needed. Another veteran player, a really savvy guy with league experience. They're excited to have him along. Next, Trey Cooper, really a reserve throughout the year. Ended up getting a couple minutes towards the end of the season, but a guy who's been with the Bobcats since amateur times and someone who's very good culture-wise. Next, Palawe Pato, one of the team's midfielders. Another guy really strong in the middle. And he's just going to do all things well. A central midfielder, he's just going to be solid. Next, Andy Alvarado, another midfielder, kind of on the defensive side. We really saw him start a lot towards the middle and end of the fall season. Another guy really who should get a lot of time this year. And then ending things off with Brian Arguetta. He's the final returner, the final of 12 or 11 returners this year for the Bobcats. Arguetta, a guy that started off the year up in the midfield, moved back towards left back before eventually being hurt and missing the rest of the season to an injury. So much explosiveness and just pure talent and skill with Arguetta. He's a guy who's going to turn heads. We've all seen it before. So that's all of the all of the returning players for the Bobcats. Next up to the additions. I'll start things off with one of the guys who I am most excited for, Elijah Amo. He was a draft pick in the MLS draft back in 2020, just a couple years ago, out of the University of Louisville, went to Real Salt Lake, didn't end up staying there, and now with the Bobcats, he can play up front, play in the midfield as an attacking guy. He is one of the most skilled players that I have seen with the Bobcats. There's going to be talent all over the field, and there's no way to start off the new players than talking about Elijah Amo. Next up, Brandon Clegg, a defender out of James Madison University, played in the EPSL this past year and was the leading scorer as a center back. He's probably going to be taking over Jake Dengler's spot. Two pretty similar players in the way that they play. Clegg maybe a bit more attacking than Dengler was, but really tall as well as Dengler. Two guys, he really should be able to take his spot. Jake Dengler, of course, went to the South Georgia Tormenta down in Statesboro, Georgia in the USL League One, and Clegg is a perfect guy to fill his spot. After that, Bernardo Mahano out of the Michigan Stars comes over from the Detroit area, staying in the NISA League. Really one of the better players in NISA when he was with the Stars before he left the team mid-season. A local guy to the DMV and someone that everyone here is really excited for. Next up, Alejandro Arbelez, a guy who is local to this area, played at UMBC, has played with the Baltimore Blast, a midfielder that this team is really excited for. Another local guy, so much local talent. I'm excited to see what Alejandro can do. Next up, honestly, maybe the new signing that I'm most excited for. And I'm going to say this a lot because there are a lot of signings that I am excited for. But Felix Anand, the goalkeeper out of Ghana, came from Kokoto. One of the better goalkeepers in all of Africa for a long time, had a cap with the Ghanaian national team, played with some Premier League players when he was with the national team, comes over to the U.S., and with him a huge following on social media. I think it's 80 or so thousand followers on Twitter, a ton of followers on Instagram, and you'll see that whenever the Bobcats post with him. Hundreds, thousands of likes and retweets and all that type of stuff. A great following, and he backs it up on the pitch. That battle between him and Caulker, and I'll get to the later goalkeepers, is really going to be something to watch out for in the preseason, and one of the things that I'm most excited for. We also had an interview with him on the media day that'll come out sometime in the next couple weeks, so make sure to look out for that. Next up, Drew Wivel, a defender, can also play in the midfield. We saw him back in the Independent Cup. He was then elevated up to the professional roster after playing with the second side this past fall. A guy that you just want around your team. Coaches some of the youth squads, was always at the matches last year helping out. He is an excellent player and such a good guy off the field. He's a difference maker. He is who you want. He is what the Bobcats are representing to be a great guy in the community. Drew Wivel, a guy I'm excited for. Next up, Moses Mckindey, another defender, can play a lot of left back, comes with USL Championship experience, and he's going to provide a lot of depth and probably going to start at the left back position, or if they go three in the back, depending on where they go. Someone who should start back there, played a lot in the USL Championship and provides a lot of depth to where there were injuries last year. One of the players that I'm really excited to see. Next up, Sam Solomon, who comes from the USL League One and the Richmond Kickers. A really solid player as an attacker, a guy who can score a lot of goals, and someone who this team I know is really excited to see. Next up, the central midfielder from 1904 FC in the league, Christian Schneider. Got a ton of starts over in San Diego, now moves cross-country, and just another guy with NISA experience. There's so much professional experience in this league, in this team, that it's not something that we saw last year. It's going to make all the difference this upcoming season. Next up, John Hollander comes from the Michigan Stars, was a goalkeeper in Sweden for a bit, played with Steel Pulse FC actually in that Independent Cup match where Drew Wivel really impressed, and his match against the Bobcats in the Independent Cup is one of the better performances that I've ever seen from a goalkeeper. I mean, he completely kept them in that game. It could have been a blowout. It could have been 6-0 Bobcats, but because of Hollander, they were able to keep it close, and ended up being a 0-0 draw. Next up, Joseph Boone from Mount St. Mary's, a forward, a guy who should get a lot of time, a really impressive attacker and a guy that I'm excited to see because, I mean, he is really just impressive. Another local guy, went to Bishop McNamara High School, was a all WCAC player at Mount St. Mary's. Struggled a bit, didn't get that much time, but he's really, really improved since his time in college, and a guy who could get a lot of time. Next up, Michael Hawk, the last of the 4 goalkeepers, a young guy, someone that the team is really improving with Hollander and Anand and Caulker. There's 3 really veteran goalkeepers with professional experience, and Hawk has that talent. He's starting to get up there, and he is really improving a lot, or impressing a lot of people around the Bobcats, and they're excited to see what he can become because, you know, he's a local guy, a young guy, and he's someone who I think can be really good. Next up, Noah Wright, another defender, comes from Virginia Commonwealth University, VCU, a guy from Bowie, Maryland. Just another person with Division I experience, another local guy, someone that people on the team are really looking forward to, a defender. Next up, Phillip Brown, the young guy, I think 17-year-old. Can't even come to some trainings because he's still in high school. He is such an impressive player and a guy that I think towards the end of the year can start to make an impact once he really gets accustomed to the professional play because he's a young guy. He is a teenager. So initially he can struggle, but I think once he gets really into it, he's a guy who by the end of the year, by the middle of the year, can start to get some time and can really impress. Next up, Jorge Quintanilla, another guy we interviewed back on Media Day. Went to Quince Orchard High School, a local product, played at West Virginia University, got a lot of starts there. Took a bit of a break from playing high-level professional soccer, but is really starting to get back into it, get back into the swing of things, and someone who really should impress a lot if he can really get back to the initial talent where he was at when he was playing at West Virginia. It's hard to get back all the way up there, but he was playing some high-level amateur soccer this past season in Maryland, and they're hoping that he can get back there. Next up, Atkin Coy, another local guy, went to Bolus, has a lot of experience, coached locally with the Bethesda Soccer Club. Another one of these local coaches, a guy who is really going to be good in the community, and someone that I had the ability to talk to at a training. Great guy, and they're excited to see what he can do. Going to provide a lot of depth, especially in the midfield. Next up, Manny Gonzalez. Manny Gonzalez was a later signing, but one that has people almost the most excited for. A 31-year-old played with the Tulsa Roughnecks, had 29 appearances with them in the USL Championship just back in 2019. Played his collegiate soccer at Florida Gulf Coast. Most recently was with the Oakland Roots in NISA back in 2020 before COVID. Such a just skilled player. He is a guy who is going to impress a lot of people. He's older, 31 years old, but he is really good, and he's going to surprise a lot of people, and I think he's probably going to get a lot of minutes this year. And then finally, ending things off, Darwin Espinel, who came over from Detroit City FC, a forward, had 17 appearances for them just in 2021. They decided not to bring him back and bring him to the USL Championship, and that is a steal of a signing for the Maryland Bobcats. Really a talented player, as I said, with Detroit City. Also had some time with the Tampa Bay Rowdies in the USL Championship with Reno. Such an impressive player and a guy who is really going to impress a lot of people with the Bobcats. A very impressive signing for them. So that's all for the players. That is everyone. It's about 30 guys, a big roster. Something that surprised some people. They thought next season it's going to be a smaller roster, but it is a big one this year just because there's so much talent. All of these guys are so good, and I'm excited to see what they'll do because they are so good, and there's so many of them. It's crazy to think how much talent is on this team. I mean, you could field 2 competitive sides just from your starters and reserves who could compete with almost any other team in this league. Just really impressive, with what the coach was able to do, with what the front office was able to do. So that's all with our players. We'll go a lot more in depth into them in the coming weeks. Next week, we'll talk a lot more about previewing the upcoming season, not the off season, and not the players. That'll be a lot more next week. The week after that, the week of the Chattanooga week, really more talking about the roster groups and what's going to be going on there. So look forward to that. This was just, who every player is, essentially. Coming up next, what happened around the league. So we're staying at the same amount of teams, 4 out, 4 in. Out of the league, Detroit City FC going to the USL Championship, New Amsterdam and Chattanooga both out of the league, and then Stumptown on a hiatus. So those are the 4 teams out. The 4 in, Flower City Union out of Rochester, New York, AC Syracuse Pulse, Bay Cities, which is in Redwood, that's Bay Area, if you can't tell, Bay Cities, Bay Area, close to San Francisco, and then Valley United, who plays in the Phoenix area. But Valley United expected by many to be the best out of those expansion teams. Rochester should be pretty competitive too. Bay Cities could be good. Syracuse is a bit of a question mark to many around the league. What kind of team are they going to come up with? But, anything can happen. That's all with around the league. The league structure for this upcoming season is going to be different than it was in the last. There's going to be 2 divisions, East and West. The East Division is the Bobcats, Chattanooga, Rochester, Syracuse, and the Michigan Stars. The West Division is Albon, Cal United, LA Force, Valley United, and Bay Cities. So the top seeds in each will get byes in the first round. After that, the second and third seed in the divisions will get paired against random teams in the playoffs. I guess 6 teams make the playoffs out of 12. It's confusing to many how this playoff system works, not just me, but we'll figure it out eventually. Whatever it is, I think it's the best way that they could do it, because we could have some talent gaps interleague. So you get 3 from each. The top 2, or the top in each, will get byes, and then after that, the second and third teams in those divisions are going to play against maybe the third in the other, or just based on record, they'll figure that out. A couple new partnerships for the Bobcats. Jimmy Seafood brought on as kind of the title sponsor of the team. They've got the kit sponsors. There'll be meal suppliers, some broadcast stuff. A lot of that. Seatly is the new exclusive ticketing partner of the Maryland Bobcats. All of the ticketing services will be with them this year, and that's going to make things a lot easier for you fans getting into games. You can get season tickets, of course, at MarylandBobcatsFC.com. All single game tickets are available. There's some special packages with, I know you can buy the new Bobcats beer and get tickets in a package. There's all that sorts of stuff. Of course, go to social media, MD Bobcats, to find that stuff out. And then Bella Football, the new communications hub of the Bobcats. I know the Old Bay Brigade, the supporter section, is going to have some stuff on there with communications. And so, yeah, those are 3 big sponsors for the Bobcats. A couple more that have come along, but those are 3 names that you'll probably see a lot this upcoming year. So that's it. About 17 minutes. This was a very not structured episode compared to what some should be in the future. Really just each player, what they're going to do, what I think of them, and a bit of background. And there was a lot of them, so it took a while. But I hope you all enjoyed that part. We'll finish things off with going to the interview with Sylvain Rastello from back at the Soccerplex. I hope you all enjoy that. I thought it was a great one. It's about 5 minutes long. Once that's over, I'll finish things off. So enjoy the interview, and I'll see you all in a minute.
All right, everybody. We are now joined by head coach Sylvain Rastello. Thank you so much for joining me today. First off, what brought you here to Maryland?
I'm very, very proud. It's a pleasure. Every day, every practice, every session, it's a pleasure to be there. Mm-hmm. And especially today with this sun, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it is beautiful weather. Of course, before you were hired and brought on, I'm sure you looked at what the team was like last year. Based on, what you saw watching them, how do you think they look so far this season during preseason?
It's maybe the major difference I can see right now. It's the deepest. Mm-hmm. We have a more balanced team, more deep, more. It's cruel, but it can be difficult for the players to be in 11 starter this year. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of decision to make, and it's not easy.
And out of all of those new additions, those new players, are there any of them that you're kind of looking forward to the most, or that have jumped out to you the most yet?
All I have seen from today, it's great pick. Mm-hmm. The job done by all the staff before I came is it's quite perfect. The picks are good. The fit with the other players seems good right now. Mm-hmm. But we have to to wait for the first game. It's the exam. The game against Loudon will be the key of the end of the pre-camp and the beginning of the season.
And with all of those new players coming in and also some of the older ones, you kind of mentioned this before, but how do you think they're gelling so far? How do you think the team chemistry is?
Right now, after 3 weeks, the chemistry start. In French, we said the mayonnaise start to come together, players. It's interesting to see how they can communicate on the field. I speak really on the field. They speak soccer on the field, and I am confident.
And how do you think some of your past experiences, with youth teams and all that type of stuff has kind of helped you bring all these guys together? Because for a team that's been together for a bit through the amateur level and then last year through the professional level, there's a lot of new guys. How do you think your past experiences are kind of helping with all that type of stuff?
It can help me to avoid some mistakes. We can do. It can help. My experience, humblement, I can say my experience can help to avoid some mistakes and to put together the players more faster.
And in addition to the NISA League this season, the team is also competing in the U.S. Open Cup. And we learned about the draw about a couple weeks ago against the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. How important is that competition to you and to the team to be able to play, the Riverhounds who are a division higher? How important is that to you?
It's a pure pleasure. It's the beautiful of the cup. You can play against teams up to you or under. And in that case, Pittsburgh, it's in my mind, in the top team in the USL 1, and every year they battle for USL Championship. It can be a very good test for us, and probably we can compete.
And what are you looking forward to most this season in your first year with the Bobcats?
I would like to say we want to win most of the game, and it certainly we want. But I want to be more on ground, in ground. How do you say in ground?
Yeah.
And we have to do the series. We have to do the series because all the people who have worked on this project have put a lot of times. They have increased the credibility of this club. They have made a terrific job on recruitment. Normally, we have to do the series.
And
at least.
And do you have any messages for the team supporters for the Old Bay Brigade? Do you have any messages for them at all?
They have to come. We need these guys. It's amazing to see the field behind us. And I can't imagine a winning team without these guys. It's part of the team, and we need the fans.
All right, well, thank you all for joining me. That's all that I have, and you heard the man. Make sure to come out and support the team. Home opener against Flower Union.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you all enjoyed the interview with Sylvain Rastello, the head coach of the Maryland Bobcats. I certainly did. Great guy, great coach. I'm really excited to see what he can do with the team this year. So that's all for episode number 1 of the Old Bay Breakdown. I hope you all enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe and like, and we'll see you all next week. For Adam Gotkin, have a great day.